Hello everyone, hope you're doing good. Welcome to our channel Pi Wizard, and this is the fifth video in the series of the 500 videos that we intend to make to give you intermediary level of proficiency in Python. So let's get started with flow control statements. Now we covered Boolean operators, Boolean values, Boolean data types in the last video. Boolean logic is a very big part of the flow control statements. Flow control statements, that is while loop, for loop, or for that matter, if else statements control how the code gets evaluated based on whether the Boolean logic actually or the Boolean condition evaluates to true or false. Okay. Now there is something called a block of code. It is the indented block of code following a condition. For example, a if condition or a else condition or an else if condition will have a indented block of code following it. The block ends when the indentation decreases to 0. That is when we do not have any more indents in the code. Now let's understand indentation a bit more in detail. Let me show it to you with an example. Here, for example, we are giving name. We are defining name variable would take an input, so would password. Okay, and next a condition statement starts, which says that if name equal to this, the equal to the operator that we read about in the last video. If name equal to Sanket, then print hi Sanket. Okay. Now if is the condition statement, right? It's a flow control statement. As I said, the indented block of code always follows a condition statement. So after if, when you put a colon here, it will auto populate with an indent. An indent basically means that there would be a space or a gap here, and uh, we print whatever we need to. I mean, print hi Sanket. It basically starting of an indent after a conditional statement also marks the beginning of the block of code. Till the point the indent is there or the indent continues to increase, the block of code is continuing. Once the printing again comes back to this point, that is the indent increases to 0, that is when the block of code has ended. Okay. One other thing that we need to realize is that there are blocks. One thing is that if colon is used at the end of conditional statement, then indentation gets auto-populated. The distribution or the IDEs that we use these days, for example, the Python distribution, the Anaconda distribution that I'm using, these have become very smart now. If you basically use a colon at the end of an if statement, which basically confirms to Python that this is a conditional statement, then it will auto populate the indent. Okay, so you need not be exactly remember that you need to give an intent. That is the best part. Another thing is that a particular block can contain another block of code. For example, you see if name equal to Sanket, print hi Sanket. Then again I have put a conditional statement inside this if clause itself. If password is equal to JSR, print access granted. So here you see the indentation is increasing. That means that there is another block of code inside the initial block of code that has been provided. Now let's look at the first flow control statement, that is the if statement. Now how the if statement works is, if statement clause gets executed, that is the block of code after if statement gets executed when the condition is true, or else the clause is skipped. Okay. And what is the basic syntax for if statement? It always would have a if keyword, it will have a colon at the end, and it will definitely have a condition. So sum equal to 10 is the condition. Now another concept that I wanted to again remind you is that please remember in the first chapter itself we read that input function, we can only pass string values as arguments into an input function. That is why if you see here, sum equivalent to 10, 10 is its in its string version, because we are taking input for sum. Okay. Now then it says that, then the block of code says that print its equivalent to a decade. So I provided input as 10 and it's printed that it's equivalent to a decade. Now, another thing to note is that, as I mentioned, please note that the indented block of code starts after the if statement. Again, as I said, if the if statement is false, then the clause gets skipped. What I did here, I added a print end, which does not have any intent, and hence it says that it is not part of the block of code after if. So if the if statement is going to be skipped, or the clause is going to be skipped, then we are going to print end. I provided 12 as an input, which does not satisfy our condition, and hence it printed a printed end. Now let's have a look at the else statement. The else statement always gets executed when the previous condition evaluates to false. How the else statement basically looks is the else keyword, a colon, and an indented block of code that follows an else statement. Always remember, an else statement does not have any particular condition that one needs to satisfy for it to get executed. So let's have a look at this example. We are providing name as an input. If name, that is your comparison operator, equal to Shubham, then print hey Shubham, else colon, indented block of code, print don't know you. So the if statement would get skipped if this condition does not satisfy. It gets skipped to else, okay, which is not part of the if statement, if clause, if block of code here, because else is not indented, it's a separate argument itself. And if it comes to else, then we will print don't know you, because else exactly does not have any condition. It's just needs to get executed once the if condition is evaluates to false. So I gave Sanket as an input. Sanket is not equivalent to Shubham, so if clause got skipped, and now we are at the else clause where we print don't know you. Now let's look at else if statement, or elif statement as it is called. The elif statement is used when the first if statement isn't true, but you want to check for another condition. This basically also signifies that the elif condition always follows an if statement. The syntax is that it needs to have a elif keyword, a colon, a condition, and an indented block of code that will follow on the next line. So let's say we provide this name is equal to input, if name is equal to Shubham, print hey Shubham, elif colon, print hey Sanket. Okay. Now this would provide an error saying that it has an invalid syntax. Why I wanted to point this out was the difference between else and elif statement is that else statement does not need a condition, but elif statement always needs a condition. So elif keyword without a condition would give you an error, unlike the else statement. So again, we go for name is equal to input, height is equal to integer of input, because height always would be obviously a integer number. If name comparison operator equal to Shubham, print hey Shubham. Elif condition height greater than 165 colon, then print hey Sanket. I gave Ram as an input, then obviously the if statement got skipped. It came to elif height greater than 165. It asked for height as an input. I provided 167. So elif condition has been satisfied. It prints hey Sanket. There are few other facets to elif statement. For instance, in an elif statement, order always matters. Okay. Let's have a look at this program, okay, where we are providing name, height is equal to input. We have continued with the same program, elif height greater than 165, print hey Sanket. we have added one more line, elif height greater than 250, print too tall. Okay. Now let's say I give Ram as the name input, so this if clause gets skipped, and then I give the height input as 300. So ideally, the way the program has been designed, uh, the programmer would want that too tall gets printed, because that is what is the logical conclusion. But because the program execution is from the top to the bottom, and this elif condition is getting satisfied first, that is elif height greater than 165, it is printing hey sanket. What we could have executed the program in two ways properly. One is that giving the elif height greater than 165, less than 250, or less than equal to 250 as one range, and elif height greater than 250 as another range, making your range of heights exclusive, completely exclusive. Or else what we could have done is that we could have put elif height greater than 250 first, and then elif height less than 165 condition later. So what would have ideally happened, that when we would have given a value greater than 255, it would have printed too tall instead of hey sanket. So order matters. Now, as I've mentioned already, please note that an if statement is a compulsion for an elif statement to follow. There is one more concept that we need to look at or need to be aware of elif statement, is that if when we are using if and elif statements and we want at least one clause to get executed, then we can close the we should close the structure with an else statement. What does that exactly mean? Let's look through the same example. Okay, this is the same program that I was showing you earlier. Okay, so let's say I give Ram as an input and then I give 50 as an input, which does not fall into any of the height categories that elif statements has. So what it will do is that when elif statement is not the condition is not getting satisfied, it will simply skip those clauses and bring the program to an end without actually printing anything. So what uh, what I'm trying to say is that if you want a particular loop to get closed by executing a particular clause when you're using else, if and elif, then also make sure that you use an else statement. For example, here we have again used the same programming. In the end, just I have added another conditional flow control statement which says else print forget it. I gave again the same inputs. I gave Ram as the name, so if condition got skipped, then I gave 50 as the height as input. Both of these elif condition got skipped, but at the end, since else does not require any condition, it prints forget it, executing a clause before the loop gets closed. So that's it for today. In the next session, we will cover while and for loops, continue and break statements. Have a great day.